As debates and arguments rage on about the Constitution and the amendment and restructuring, we again come to you from the Secretariat of NINAS to explain what exactly most of the terminologies being used mean and how they relate. Therefore, how we can manage all of it, to accommodate everybody in a process that everybody can relate with. And so we've seen that away from what it used to be, many people used to argue that the Constitution is not the problem. It is the people who are managing the Constitution that are not doing well. The illiteracy and ignorance of that proposition has been exposed by the recent happenings in the country so that everybody can see that the Constitution is at the 1999 Constitution, the unitary Constitution of Nigeria, is at the center of all the problems Nigeria is contending with. And Nigerians too, both the mass impoverishment that has made them global capital for poverty and the gross insecurity that is raging all over the place, and the hopelessness, that is growing by the minute. So everybody now realizes that that Constitution is the problem. Most people now agree that that Constitution have to be changed. The only people who are still arguing about whether it should change or not change are the same people who imposed it and who have also imposed Sharia and who are feudalists because they do not want any democracy. They do not want any union of equal partnership or equal opportunity because they do not believe all men are born equal. And they want to hang on to their Sharia in a secular union. So, having agreed, let us talk for the majority now and leave the minority that has seceded from the union. The majority, having all agreed on the question of taking out, doing away with the unitary constitution that is not working to something that could work. Some have suggested a return to 1963 constitution. Some think National Assembly is the one to do all of what has to be done. But the self-determination collective, those who know better, and I'm not saying it in the sense of boasting, the question of who can make constitution is exactly like asking who can make the memo and articles of a company. It's as straightforward as that. Only the owners of the company, only the shareholders, the promoters, the people who come together to submit their assets and take the risk of going into formation of a company can make their memo and articles. It is after they've done all of that that they now hire a management to run their company. So it's not the management of the company that will make the memo and article. That's how simple it is. Going back to constitution, who can make constitution? It is the constituents, those bringing their sovereignties together, that can make any document that can become constitution. Those who could be countries of their own, if not for the union they formed. The Yoruba, for instance, would be a country of 50, 60 million people if Nigeria were to cease to be today. The eastern Nigeria, the lower Niger, that's the eastern half of southern Nigeria, the south, and southeast, as we have it in this map, will be a country of more than 70 million people if Nigeria was not occupying their space today. In the middle belt, we could be talking about anything between 40, 45 million. That would be, these are the owners of the sovereignties that are, aggregated into what we call Nigeria. But whether that aggregation is of their own making, volition, agreement, or has been a question of hijack is an issue now. At independence, the reason they became one country, all these constituents, the reason they became one country at independence in 1960 was because they had agreed to be a federation. To be a federation, that's a union of otherwise independent units with their full sovereignties, with their constitutions in their hands. We recall that they got all their constitutions in place before they went to Lancaster House to finalize the terms of becoming one political union, such that if those discussions of Lancaster House did not, sail through, the Western region that had its constitution and self-governance from 1957 will remain a country of its own, growing the way it was growing with all its assets and its rights to work those assets unhindered. The same thing with Eastern Nigeria, the same thing with Northern Nigeria of the time. But it was because of the extent, the agreement they reached to be a union of autonomous regions that had control over their sovereignties, their assets, and their rights to work those assets. All of that got truncated by 1966 when the coups happened and the 5 constitutions that defined the union got toppled. I had to go into all of that in order to lay the ground for us to understand what this restructuring debate is all about. And I'm speaking to it now from the perspective of the self-determination collective. All of those who say the imposition represented by this current constitution is no longer acceptable to them because it has become a union of death, a union of backwardness, a union of attrition for them. And so some want out. The Oodua Republic campaign, the Biafra Republic campaign, all of those who are saying restructure back to 1963, all of those who are saying resource control, they are saying exactly the same thing. They want something they decide for themselves. And that is the meaning of self-determination. All those agitations and demands are being driven by the desire for self-determination. Whether it is restructuring or Oodua Republic or resource control or Biafra Republic, all of those are being driven by only one desire, self-determination. And what is that self-determination? Because there's also this confusion including in high places. Many think that self-determination automatically translates to independence, secession, leaving the union. No. Self-determination simply means what it says, to determine for yourself how you live in your space. And that self-determination could be one in which you are satisfied with 80% autonomy instead of 100. 80% autonomy will take you back to what you had in 1963 Constitution, where the regions had control of their assets and contributed only 15% to the center. The one that could be 100% is one in which some of those who now say they want to leave the union are complaining about the Sharia and the feudalism and the arrogance of those who impose those two. In this map you see, that is their preliminary objection. I am speaking as one who had worked with all of them for over 20 years, whether it was in the Yoruba space where Gani Adams and his compatriots picked up arms to question the internal security arrangements of Yoruba land. I've had the privilege on behalf of the project to ask the leaders of all those agitations, eyeball to eyeball, why are you saying what you are saying? Why are you doing what you are doing? And I can report to us that they are only insisting on their right to determine for themselves how they operate and how they live in their spaces. And so, having established that it is the desire for self-determination that is driving all the agitations, it now comes to be decided. The only other thing that will be remaining to be decided will be the question of the degree of autonomy. It's only the degree of autonomy that varies between those who seek exit, outright exit. They want 100% autonomy. Oodua Republic, Biafra Republic, the Igbohos of this world, the Nnamdi Kanus of this world, they may not be able to explain it the way we're explaining now, but that is what they want, 100% autonomy. The people who are talking about restructuring and who are pointing us back to 1963 Constitution are also discussing the same self-determination, but they will be satisfied with 80% autonomy so that there's a union office to manage the balance of 20%. There are also people who are saying that the states as we have them now, let us devolve power down to them there's an anomaly in that suggestion. There's an ignorance driving that suggestion. It is not the center that will devolve power to the federating units. In a federation, it is the federating units that donate power that become the power. All the power the center will have must come from, the federating units. And so the argument of devolution of power is illiterate, is ignorant, and those canvassing it should go and find out the meaning of federation, should go and find out whether it is the company that creates its shareholders and its owners, or the owners that create the company. What that suggestion is like saying, let this company now appoint who will own it. It is a reverse logic. And so we come back to the real question of from where Nigeria is now. Since we all accept, since we have come to realize that it is the constitution that is the problem, the unitary constitution, we've all come to accept that it has to change to something else. The one question left for everybody to answer now, and we have limited time to answer it before something else answers it for all of us, is by what mechanism will that change? By what mechanism will the world change as been polluted and bastardized in Nigeria? By what mechanism will that fundamental reconstruction, which has acquired the street name restructuring, be undertaken? We have the NINAS has a comprehensive answer that have been articulated and put on the table since 2018. We recall when in 2018 the President Buhari went to France to talk down on those who are demanding for restructuring. He said that those who were asking for restructuring don't know what they are looking for, don't know how it can be done. They're just there causing confusion and making noise. Again, forgetting that he himself was part of the process, the PRONACO process, by which we undertook the interrogation of what the problem was and what needed to be done. So on behalf of the alliance, we had raised an open memo titled Open Memorandum to President Muhammad Buhari on the restructuring debate. Anybody who Googles that will see what we wrote to him, spelling out what restructuring means in exact terms, spelling out the step-by-step procedure for undertaking it, and pointing out in that articulation the fact that that reconstruction that we now call restructuring can yield any of the many outcomes possible. It can yield a federation that will be a proper federation. It can yield a confederation. It can also yield non-federation if we go through the two-stage process, which the proclamation of December 16th, the constitutional force majeure, the demands of the constitutional force majeure proclamation of December 16th spelled out. The two-stage process by which we can determine, by which we can get those who are fed up with how Nigeria is now to decide in a manageable process through a period of transition what they want in terms of the degree of autonomy. So restructuring can also deliver. That's by the explanation I've made now, we can see that if we go into that reconstruction, first by putting aside the 1999 constitution, just like the apartheid constitution of South Africa had to be put aside before they went into CODESA in a transition presided over by Frederick de Klerk of the time. It doesn't have to be, in the demands of December 16th, in the union dispute of December 16th, we indicated that it is the nationalities as represented by NINAS and other stakeholders that will determine the composition, the tenure, mandate of the transitional arrangements that we're going to have. So let us not be in any fixation in it, that it must be everybody there now that will manage the process. it is something that will be decided. Once we all accept that this constitution will have to, this 1999 constitution will have to get out of the way, we are not in, the people who are making these demands, NINAS is not in any quarrel with those in government house. NINAS is saying, let the nominal governance remain in a transitional capacity. And so we go into that two-stage process by which all of those who are complaining, whether they want out or they want more autonomy or they want resource control, the process by which they will make that choice via referendum. That is what had been listed out in that open memo, so that nobody can come debating, nobody can come arguing, because every day we tune the TV stations these days, all the discussions end in only one thing. Nobody knows how to undergo or undertake this restructuring. That's the prevailing view now. Because when they rush to National Assembly, we say no, National Assembly has no mandate to deal with our sovereignties. And so they say, they accept that constitution has to change. Let's go and write another constitution. And I saw some senior advocates writing constitution, Olisabokoba and co, Falana and co, writing constitution to go and give to them to now adopt. You know, it's marks of illiteracy on the jurisprudence of constitution making. It's marks of dishonesty, because we have engaged most of them to say it cannot be so. We saw the memo, Yadudu, the quota professor, Awaru Yadudu. We saw the memo he just sent to the House of Representatives, telling them to stick onto the amendment as the only way to go. At a time we have established that the mandate, the legislative mandate of the National Assembly does not extend to constitution making, you know. And so we just come back to where everybody has to come down from their high horses. Time is running. The 120 days we took from April the 17th to consult with the populace and the international community, we can already see some of the outcomes. Yoruba is on the street rejecting the Union of Nigeria. The international stakeholders, the world powers, have pointed Nigeria to those propositions contained in our Constitutional Force Majeure Proclamation of December 16 to say, let the matter go to dialogue of the people. Let there be fresh, legal instrument emerging from that dialogue. That's what we have to do now, and the exact mechanism by which it could be done to the satisfaction of all of those who are, dissatisfied with Nigeria now. The exact mechanism is already in that open memo. Guardian newspaper, that open memo was written on November 16th, 2018. Guardian newspaper, reported on it on November 18. Anybody, 2018, November 18, 2018. Anybody who can access Guardian will find it. And people could also Google open memorandum to President Muhammad Buhari on the restructuring debate coming from this alliance. Having said all of that, we also come back to the question of this Sharia, that is the preliminary objection by those who are saying they want to leave the union. Everything can be resolved in terms of, issues of equity, issues of, equal opportunity that have been missing. But there's a preliminary objection to being in the union that will have Sharia in one part, because the adherence of Sharia, I'm reporting to us the inner thinking, the argument of those who are driving, whether it is Odua Republic or Biafra Republic or Middle Belt Republic, all of those who are saying they can't be in this union anymore. Their principal complaint is the question of Sharia in these 12 contiguous states, because the adherents of Sharia owe it a duty of faith to kill others as infidels. And if you have a situation where you have to be in one political union with people who owe it a duty of faith to kill you, you can see that Sharia cannot cohabit in the same political space with democracy, which the rest of us desire. Cannot cohabit in the same political space with a constitutionalism. Cannot cohabit with a union of equal partnership. does not hold human life sacrosanct, since they owe it to the of faith to kill other people. And all of those who are saying they are fed up completely, they don't want to hear anything about Nigeria anymore. That is their principal contention. And you can see that in Yoruba land, there are also Muslims. But we've seen from the hearings going on about their so-called amendment, the Yoruba Muslim does not want Sharia. The ones in the eastern half of southern Nigeria, the ones in Auchi, or my brother Asari Dokubo, they are not discussing, they don't want to hear about Sharia. So those who want to, who have already adopted Sharia, have actually seceded from the secular union we have. And so, unless that Sharia is removed from the table, unless the feudalism, which is also their worldview, their civilization, is removed from the table, the rest of this alliance will not be willing to discuss being in any union with them at all. And where we are now is that constitution that sets up the union, upon which the union is standing today, is dead and gone. The limited toleration to it, I pray we don't waste it, because it will come to the point where, when we are satisfied ourselves that we've discussed with everybody, federal government has taken 90 days, they went to National Assembly to try to play pranks. It has collapsed. The governors took 30 days. Again, they were not fully determined on what they wanted to do. They went to Asaba to make a pronouncement. That is one step. How do you enforce ban on open grazing if you don't have guns? If that constitution is in place and you cannot access guns, how are you going to prevent people who are carrying guns and killing your people in these numbers we see from carrying on with what they're doing? So they have to come, more openly into the side of reason, into the side of reality, that we cannot continue with this constitution for another season. So having said that, the question of Sharia and feudalism have become preliminary objection that has to be resolved before anybody can discuss what to do with union. Right now, the concern of this majority, 150 million people in the alliance, is about Nigerians, not about Nigeria. Those who want to preserve Nigeria must go to find answers for the grievances that have been laid on the table for this preliminary objection relating to Sharia and feudalism. And we have put all of it together, put a step-by-step process to it. If you want to know what the problem is and what the solution options are, go to the proclamation of December 16th, the NINAS proclamation, www.ninasffn.org. You will see it there. You can also go to www.freedomfromnigeria.com. You will see it there. You can also go to lowernigercongress.org. That's www.lowernigercongress.org. So you can see anybody who has not read that proclamation and this open memo will not understand what is happening in Nigeria until something snaps. If you are able to read and write in this debate going on, we invite you for your own good, for your own sake, because if you don't, you are going to remain in your ignorance until AK-47 turns up at your space. I think we can round it up here by saying that restructuring can deliver federation, confederation, or non-federation, meaning that it can accommodate even those who want to leave the union. It only goes to a referendum at which they will be choosing the degree of autonomy they want. All demands for restructuring are driven by the desire for self-determination. Let us be sensible and go and solve this problem. Guns will not solve it. Intimidation will not solve it. Ignorance will compound it. We can still save the Nigerians. We've lost the Nigeria a long time ago. We can save Nigerians from this carnage that is coming upon them by people who want to, take their land, kill them off, and bring other people to settle here, because that's what we're dealing with. I think we can drop it here.
Ah, la, 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 la,